Hi there, my name is Boris, and so your next question will be, when did my trip to Canada start? Let's pretend you ask, so here is my answer. It started on February 24th, 2022. It was on this very day when you-know-who moved the army of the most notorious villains into one small but brave country. So it happened. The first week of the war was some kind of total delirium for everyone. Some could not believe it could happen in the 21st century. Others, the down-to-earth ones, immediately left with their children. Children are still our future, and many joined the ranks of the defenders of the country they love. As the father of 3 small children, I was eligible to leave, but nevertheless the only right way for me was to stay in Kiev, sending my family by evacuation train away from missiles and air raids. Their journey was difficult and long. Lviv, Poland, Germany. In Germany they would be adopted by Good Samaritans from America, and next time we would meet as a family 5 months later. It is difficult to convey how much I love Kiev, and it was even more difficult to make this choice, and I am grateful to my family for accepting my choice. My cat and dog stayed in Kiev to help me fight on information front, where I voiced over news for Ukrainian radio in English, created anti-Putin videos together with Zhenya Chekalin. Many of my friends in different countries, and unfortunately no one in Russia, were compassionate and helped. Some donated money, but most importantly stayed in touch. And among the first people who lended a helping hand was the Canadian lady Willow, who was on my excursion in Kiev 14 years ago. Since then we sometimes dropped a line or two via email. And to her question after the 24th, Boris, how can I help? I really didn't know what to answer, and no one knew. I passed the nest egg to the family because, me and my past didn't need so much. Later, having realized that the finances of the family are coming to an end, I said, if you can help, I will be obliged. Everything else at your discretion. Willow, with the consent of the pastor, organized a collection of donation to Karnetsky family in her Canadian community of parishioners of the Church of St. Luke, for which I am forever grateful to her, David, her husband, and all parishioners. A little later, via Willow, another Canadian lady, doctor of psychology Ayala, contacted us. She and her husband, the kindest man, and now my dear friend Mark, began to help both financially and psychologically. Thus the decision gradually grew to come to Canada, the country where the pain of Ukraine was not alien. Writing about all the bureaucratic red tape with passports and visas that has lasted for more than 6 months, is no good. Let's forget it and fast forward to the 2nd of February 2023. Oddly enough, I was the first one to get visa, and with a small backpack, bag and a cat and a huge cage with a dog, I spread my wings and took off. Warsaw, Paris, Toronto, St. John. A little lyrical digression. Take a look at the beauty that I had the pleasure to observe under the wings of our aircraft. It was simply impossible to tear eyes from outside of the window. Well, except for a small lunch 2 times during the flight. And I was a good boy to take sleepers to feel comfy, covered with a blanket. The cat in her mobile house occasionally demanded to pet her, but in general she turned out to be a nice girl. Bunny the dog flew somewhere in the belly of the plane, along with his comrades, apparently discussing their owners, but in a spacious cage, lying on a rug under which Boris carefully placed some of his art pieces, which, as the time will show, might be quite of some help for him. Well, Boris, say hello to the country of maple syrup and hockey with the longest coastline in the world. Upon arrival, Ukrainian flags pleased my eye everywhere, and upon mentioning that I was from Ukraine, there was a queue of people to shake my hand. Thus I became a newcomer, that is, a beginner, and my first impressions begin over here. There are a lot of them, so I will probably share my experience in portions. But to be honest, without the help of ordinary Canadians and my Canadian friends, it would be quite difficult. Of course, Canadian $3,000 per adult for the start is very, very good. But by local standards, this is 2-3 months of rental housing. Well, yes, in Canada, the food bank generously helps with food, where once a month you will be given a bunch of food for free, so you won't starve. Where does this food come from? Donation of these very average and Samaritan Canadians. In every supermarket you will see a hefty donation box. Canadians themselves, but not during the filing of tax returns, are leisurely and relaxed. Why hurry? Let's sit and smoke. True, true. People are one of the most important natural resources of the country. They are good-natured, open and smiley. They wave their hands and say, "How are you?" Well, how am I? My first impression was that cannabis is secretly added to food and drinks everywhere. Okay, jokes aside, when they find out that you are from Ukraine, the first question is, how can I help? And if you are the right person, by the right I mean the person who will not abuse hospitality and is ready to be part of society, then oh man, you are in trouble. Here you are arrived with a backpack, dog and cat, and a week later you have 3 beds, 5 armchairs, 365 cups for every day of the year, and a separate room full of canned and other food. You are ready for another war, or you can open your own value village. I'm lucky with my neighbors. 2 families of Ukrainians, Rita, Laura, and Dasha Romka, Rita's children, live on the ground floor. Roman, Lesya, Masha, and Semyon are on the other side of the house, so you can always chat and sit over a cup of tea. It was a real surprise that there are a lot of musicians in the city, and from the first days I plunged into the days of my musical youth and rushed to the stage for the open mics. Someday I dream to be part of one of the greatest bands of St. John. Dreams, sweet dreams. And I'm quite serious about people who are the greatest value and treasure of St. John. They are an example of an exemplary society for me. After all, it's so great that people just smile at each other. A couple of examples from life. I'm at a bus stop and a person whom you would call a homeless person by his look is approaching me, and elderly, unshaven for a long time and obviously not wearing Gucci clothes. Rough diamond. He puts his plastic back on the bench, then he fishes something wrapped in foil out of it, which later turns out to be a Wendy's pie, a Canadian but in my opinion much better analog of McDonald's. The next thing that touches and shocks me is he invites me to share the feast. I politely refuse. We have a small talk during which the bearded man, in not printed words, tells what he thinks about Russia and its politics. It also turns out that he has 6 cats. He carefully throws the rest of the pie into the bushes in case some animal gets hungry. Another case, I'm on the bus, I need to transfer to another one, I'm standing not far from the driver, and suddenly I see that the bus I need is already approaching from the other side. That is, I have already missed it. Plus, as luck would have it, we have a red traffic light. And here I stand and mumble to myself one popular English 4-letter word, sort of under my breath, but the driver turns to me and says, pointing to the bus, "Is it yours?" "Oh yeah, sorry." He picks up the phone and dials his friend from that bus, says, "Wait a minute, bro, I have a passenger for you." And the buddy on the other side, on the other bus, is waiting for me. Awesome. No comments. Ukrainians. It's so helpful that there is a Ukrainian community in St. John, and when you get to Canada tired and unshaven, you find yourself in the open arms of Ukrainians who have been here for a little bit longer than you. Some of them have been here for 2 years, some more, some less, and by the way, if you are not quite a fool, but such are rather uncommon here, then you should immediately start to get involved in life. Find a job or just volunteer. Volunteering is of paramount importance here. Well, you might think, oh, you come to Canada, you get into paradise. Nope, sir. You will have to start from the scratch if you are not a millionaire by chance, and you are not, or I'm not, so far as I love to add. You'll have to apparently forget that you will find a nice job in your profession, the one you used to have in previous overseas life. Oh yeah, just wait. Retraining, confirmation of diplomas and other bureaucracy seems to be the national sport of Canada. It would be nice to come to someone in charge and say, "Hey bro and sister, while Ukrainians, doctors, professors and engineers and teachers and technicians work as handymen, you don't have enough of those doctors, professors, engineers, teachers and technicians. Help yourself, help us." By the way, ask questions in comments. The more questions, the more answers I can provide you after certain exploration. Well, enough for the first time. I bow and hug those who deserve it. Has always been yours and remain yours, Boris Waits. See you. Well, and yes, of course, this is my personal story. Everyone has his or her own story. The first bright and enthusiastic impressions will be followed by the sober ones. We shall see both advantages and their opposites. I won't hide anything from you. Show must go on.